Hello folks, I just finished recording with Jules, who's one of the co-founders of Tally Workspace. Jules and Laura started Tally in 2020 in the middle of all the COVID lockdown hysteria, and I love these stories. They just put up a Squarespace site and went, let's see what happens, and went for it. And here they are 4 years later. One of the things we talk about at the end of the call is the Tally Awards, and that is where people who use workspaces vote for their workspaces. And one of the things I don't really like awards, but I like these awards because they give smaller underdog workspaces the chance of recognition in the marketplace. Because very often you see all these big shiny workspaces, gleaning awards because they have PR companies, and the Tallys are user-led awards. So if you are listening to this and you work in a co-working space, as in you are a member of a co-working space, go to the link in the show notes and find your workspace or enter your workspace. You have to answer a lot of questions there so you're a human and not a bot, and get into it. We also talk about the London workspace market because there's the very, very high end and there's the very, very low end. We talk about Sandbox Workspace. It's one of my favorite London projects on the face of the planet. And Charlie and Susie and the team take over buildings that are at the end of their life, and you can just have a pop-up co-working space in there. There's a link to the Sandbox in the show notes there too. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and you have to go to the LinkedIn group where all the podcasts like this, and there's Fanny's podcast, and there's Caleb's podcast, and there's Nabara's podcast, and Susan's podcast are in the LinkedIn group, and we're really making a big, sustained, collaborative effort to get people to comment and join in more on these conversations that all of us put out into the universe every week. So I think that's about it then. Wherever you are in the world, have a great day. Let's get into the show. Hello folks, and welcome to today's Co-working Values podcast, and all the way from sunny Kensal Rise, it is Jules. Jules, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Hi, I think, and I hope also, that I'm known for being one of the co-founders of Tally Workspace.
And what would you like to be known for?
I think a successful founder or a founder of a successful Tally Workspace I'd like to be known for. And also just a nice, helpful person, I think.
You are if someone said, is she a nice, helpful person, I would go with that. So
thanks.
Can you I'm sure you've done this 4 million times, but how did you start Tally in that, all the bits about the Squarespace and how you hacked it together at the beginning and what it got to now?
Yeah, sure. So Laura and myself started Tally in 2020. So mid-COVID, we both had other jobs at the time working at startups. And then we decided to start something within the workspace world because both our startups were spending loads of money on workspace that we couldn't go to. And we thought, the way that people and companies use workspace, the kind of workspace they're going to want is going to change. So we thought, let's experiment with that. And then we had the idea of, which I'm sure many other people at the time had, of getting companies to pay for their employees to use more local workspaces and co-working spaces instead of a centralized office. So yeah, we just kind of made a website on Squarespace. I wish Lovable had existed then. That would have been great. And then we did that for a while, kind of tested it with a few companies, and then we actually were lucky and we got an Innovate UK grant. So then we built the first website from that, and we ran that for a while until it kind of had some more traction. And then, we both quit our jobs and did Tally full time.
Yahoo! What's I don't pay a lot of attention to, inevitably I read things about it, but this desk space, office space thing is not my specialist area. If I was going to go on Mastermind, I wouldn't pick that. And it seems like every 6 months, the market changes in London. And a lot of people, probably 50% of our audience, have something to do with London or run a co-working space in London. And it just seems, I think the word I'm going to use is this ever uncertain market. And is that hype, or is it exciting and changing every day, or is it bloodthirsty and uncertain?
It's a bit of a roller coaster, I'd say. We at Tally, we really specialize in working with startups and scale-ups. And I think that part of the market, what workspace that part of the market demands, is always going to be a bit of a roller coaster because it's so dependent on the economy. And Laura and I always say that we know what's going to happen, like with startups, before anyone else, because, like a company will say that they're downsizing or whatever before they'll fire everyone, or they'll get an office before they do their fundraising announcement, etc. But yeah, you do see a lot of change. I mean, we've only been in the market for like 4/5 years, so I'm sure people have seen much more than I have. But yeah, it does change a lot. I'd say at the moment, with like the rise of AI and people, there's a lot of like redundancies making in much smaller companies with a lot more money and a lot more revenue per person. There's a real like flight to quality at the moment. So companies wanting really, really nice offices in very central locations in London with really high desk prices, I would say at the moment, but you never know, might flip.
What would so if I was to open if I was going to open a co-working space at the moment,
Yeah.
would it be that high end thing where I'm going to go for, or is it an IKEA table? Like what? Because I see more and more spaces opening up, and a bit of me, the uneducated bit of me, is like, why are you opening that? No one needs it. But like, set me straight.
I think you really have to pick your niche. You also see a lot of people wanting to have offices where similar types of companies are. So, for example, there'll be buildings with a lot of like health tech companies, or buildings with a lot of FMCG companies, etc. And I think what does really well is like really knowing your niche. So, for example, like a Sandbox, they're like a operator. They do really well because they take on end of life buildings and then are able to do really reduced pricing, and they're super popular. And I would always really recommend them if you're wanting like a low priced office space. And then similarly, you want to go really extreme the other way. So you want to go like a Maya or a Labs or a Fora and really do those like incredible workspaces with like everything that you've ever wanted. And attract those kind of customers. I think who struggles is kind of like the in between, I would say, for our particular type of customer. So I think you really just have to pick your niche and stick with it.
I absolutely love Charlie and Susie at the Sandbox.
Yeah, so great.
If I lived in London still, I'd just be with them, and because you get to, I'm going to put a link in the show notes, folks, because you get to be in. There was one building we did a London co-working assembly event that was right on the River Thames, and I could hack looking at that view for 6 months and have to like up sticks. And it seems like a really exciting place to be. Like to be, I know this probably sounds really inconvenient to a lot of people listening, but moving office every few months to a new location, it's like it's like having a food truck.
I think they're not allowed to do long contracts, but the reality is that their buildings, they get to keep them for years. So I think you just have to be okay with the uncertainty, but in the reality, people stay there for years.
I've known them a long time, and every time I speak to Charlie, I kind of get an anxiety attack, because having that much, I don't know how they do it, like having that much uncertainty in your business. Like, someone goes, like when we moved from London to Vigo, I found that so traumatic, even though it was a very nice thing to do and we'd chosen to do it. So moving, I mean, this contradicts what I just said, but like moving my whole business every month is like the end of the thing. What so another thing is, there's a conversation that's happening a lot at the moment is about like wealth inequality in London, and there's loads. And when I say loads, like probably 20 people who are freelancers that I speak to are like, oh, we can't afford a co-working space. And some of that is, how they choose to spend their money. But a lot of it is, it's just not viable for me to go and pay to be there. It's easier for me to be at home, travel in, and everyone's like, the cost of living and everything like that. So like there is a question coming. Like how does, what's your opinion on that actually is probably the best way to get into that question.
Yeah, I guess with freelancers it's always really hard. Like with our Tally Flex product, which is like meeting room desk booking, event space booking, I do always find it like hard with freelancers because, as you say, it's just like a decision on how they're going to spend their money. And I have seen the price of like an individual co-working, like just a day pass, rise from like, you used to be able to get one for £15, and now I think they're more like minimum 35. So you do just see the price rise for those. And it kind of does make sense from an operator point of view. I wouldn't want to speak for them, but I guess when I look at them, like the co-working part of their P&L is always like 2-3%. And so I think they really just try their luck and try and push those prices up. But I completely get it. Like, people have amazing work at home setups, but you do find more and more people wanting to get out of the house. But I would say, if you're like a freelancer, etc., you don't see them kind of doing ad hoc different spaces every day. They normally find like a home that they like and then build a community around that. Because, like, as you know, community is so big, isn't it? So you kind of want to go back to the same space.
Yeah, it is. There's this, because I've got like the high end spaces we're talking about, and it seems that is doing really well. And then there's all the people that are in the affordable workspace conversation. A lot of that is like run by local authorities or in conjunction with local authorities. And it seems that, like you said just now, that middle part is the middle of everything is suffering.
Yeah. I think people are willing to pay for quality though, aren't they? And if they think they get something out of it. So I guess, like, for example, like Patch or something like that, where it's like super community focused. I feel like they're on something there where that's like, it's really way more than a workspace. And I do, even with this flight to quality, like, I think that's what people are looking for, is like way more than a workspace. They want it to be their gym, their cafe, their this, they want it to be everything. So like, I think people have to rethink the cost a little bit, whether that's a company paying for it or you're paying for it. But it's like, people are you probably have to pay more, but people are expecting more.
But that like Patch is good, and Oro Space as well. Like, that is worth it. I feel like I'm in there. Like the Patch I've been to is the one in Richmond, and I it's got the cafe there. There's like, you feel like there's something going on in the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Beyond like, I'd like to give you a desk and take your money.
Yeah, exactly. And I do love that. Like, it's really cool to be able to, that they're able to like give that, like, community events, or whether it's like gym, or you're actually able to make connections there, which is like, you are offering something you can't get at home, basically.
That gym thing, because I saw your post on LinkedIn today, like that.
Yeah.
I think if there is, I would go to the gym, like, if it's nearby. So if there was a gym in a building, I would pay for that, not because I don't have to pay a gym membership and it's included. I'll pay for that because I'd actually go, because I just have to go down. Like, the proximity would sell it to me.
Yeah, I think that also is a thing for like, probably not for like you as an individual, but for companies. Whereas I think there was like a real thing on benefits. Do you remember there was like an explosion of benefits companies? And it was like, which company can give their employees the most benefits? And like, gyms are always part of that conversation, like gym memberships or gym pass or etc. And if you have a gym within your workspace, you don't like have to pay tax on it the same way that if you give it to a benefit as an extra. So I think for companies, it's actually really tax efficient if they can include that, so they can like have it as a benefit. And it is something that loads of employees value, because like the price of gyms in London is mental. So it's like a real added value for an employee.
It is insane how I'm just astounded at how much a gym is in London. And I used to live in central London, and I think of what I used to pay for the one that's now the Virgin on the Barbican. I think it's still a Virgin in the Barbican on the corner there. That's in that you can see in Slow Horses.
I didn't know that.
In Slow Horses, sorry to tangent, folks. In Slow Horses, their HQ is on that road by Barbican Station.
Yeah,
and I know that area well, but I can't remember. But it was enough for me to afford. Okay.
Yeah.
And God knows what it's like nowadays.
The third space in Notting Hill, I think it's like £350 per person per month, something like that. So it's mental. So it's like a real advantage if you have like a high quality gym in your workspace.
So the other bit I wanted to get into, so I'm going to have to like shift gears at 100 miles an hour here, is that whole female founder conversation. Was that I'm going to go straight to it, because a conversation that always comes up is how much venture capital and how much investment and everything goes towards underrepresented minorities and stuff like that, and female founders. And I'm just like amazed. Like, every time I see one of those statistics, even if it's like only a month, I'm amazed at how low it is. And like, is that like a never ending fight for you, or you just accepted that's how it is, or how do you deal with that?
We're not really looking for funding, so it's not like something like I'm currently battling, if you see what I mean. But we have raised funding in the past, and I think definitely it like is an issue, like having to overprove yourself. And when we were looking for funding, like some of the questions you get asked are ridiculous. I feel like there should be real vetting on those. Like they would literally blatantly ask you, like, are you planning to have a baby? Like, how are you planning to do this, etc. Which is fine if you're asking it to everyone, but I didn't really think that was the case. But yeah, it is mad. I think what Laura and I, or like I would get, I don't want to speak for Laura, but I think what I would get really frustrated at is there is like so many amazing initiatives that people have set up to support female founders. But none of them are based on money. When we first started Tally, the number of like free coaching, free mentoring, this program, that program to help you raise money, program to this. And I was like, this is anti-helpful. Like if I said yes to all these things, I wouldn't be spending any time building a business, and therefore I wouldn't even have anything to pitch to investors. And I feel like sometimes I felt this at the time very strongly, that I felt like male counterparts weren't getting offered all this support. And obviously it was meant from a really good place, all the support and initiatives, but like really I was like, just give me your money or become a customer. I think also that is like, it's like the way that they can support you is being your customer and giving you money and showing traction. So I think I used to get a bit frustrated that there was like a lot of support, but it wasn't financial.
Yeah, I always have to have someone say that first before I chime in like this, but I feel there's like a lot of life belts around. There's a lot of well-meaning, well-intentioned stuff. And when you're starting out in your journey, it's like, you know, when you do any type of coaching or anything, you go through a few, you know, this seems like really good. And then you get a bit skilled up and savvy about it, and you get more focused yourself, and you go, that's what I need. But the way you position that, I really agree with. And there's the time as well.
Yeah, I feel like at the time, like for example, there was loads of like mentoring, and I'd get on calls with people and they'd be like mentoring us, and they'd be like female founders, and I'd be like, okay, but do you want to use our product? And they'd be like, nah, I'm using this other one. And I was like, the only way you can support us is by using our product. And I would feel the same for other people. I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of well-meaning, but it never really like translated into results.
And is that, look at it, I've only just thought of this question, so it might be ill thought out. Like, do you think it's like got harder? Because I feel like everyone's looking for, you know, 2019, we were all like looking for vitamins and and kicking the ball around. Yeah. And now we're like, I just want a painkiller, and the faster it works, the better, so I can just get on with it, you know? Yeah.
So sorry, in terms of the question, do you think it's got harder to raise money?
Just harder in that. Thank you for clarifying the question there.
Sorry.
I got so excited. Like I don't want to say harder to raise money, but like harder to move your business forward. Because it is harder to raise money, I think. But
yeah, I think it definitely is harder to raise money. It's so interesting, isn't it? Like I just came back from maternity leave, so I was off for like 4 months, and like the change in the startup environment, even within those 4 months, with like AI and all the like the easy to like no code tools and stuff, does make it so easy to build companies. So I think it's just all changing, isn't it? There's so many more like early stage companies competing for money, but I think you'll see a real rise in like people creating companies, and then people buy like old like MBA students or other companies like buying them up really quickly, like all this what's it called when people like the acquisition, where you like go into companies and just buy the best people and you just like leave the company as a zombie company. I just think like the transition and the moment of the startup market is crazy, like what's happening there. And I'm sure it will settle, but the things that you're seeing happening, like the rise in the number of companies, the number of those I can't remember what it's called, but like when you just steal the talent and you leave the company, all those kind of things, I think it will be like a very noisy market and really hard for VCs or investors to pick good companies because it's so noisy.
That was a really good answer to a very mediocre question. Thank you.
I can't remember the name of the Acqui hire thing as well, so I need to look that up.
Is it the Hormozy thing? Acquisition.
Yeah, I think so. You know, when they like, I think like Human Loop just had it, etc., where you can't like a company comes in and they're just stealing the talent. They leave behind. I
bet it's got a really brutal name that you cannot say on a podcast.
Maybe. I think it's very noisy.
But before we go, can you like this? Something I've noticed that you said is like rather than like being against brokers and all this kind of thing, I feel like you're bridging the old school and new school with Tally. Is that an accurate representation of what you're out to do?
Yeah, I think it's really tough, isn't it? Like with traditional workspace, like we do a lot of like traditional leasing as well, and we have someone in our team who like specializes in that. But Laura and I don't come from like a traditional workspace background, and I think that has been a huge challenge for us. Is like they are such a tight knit community, and yeah, the way that they work is very different. So like coming into that with like fresh eyes, sometimes I think we can sometimes be a bit. Thinking about it too simply. Maybe we're like, why can't we just do that? We're like, isn't this easy? Which is like a good way to look at things, but also means that like we find it a bit frustrating. But yeah, I think really what we're trying to do is be like, workspace is workspace. Like if you have the space, you can make it into anything you want. So
The and what about the that whole office thing? Because we were talking a bit about that beforehand. Because people come and say, "Oh, I want to open this co-working space, Bernie. It's going to be all this," and I always go, "You gotta have some offices in there, mate. You know, you're never going to sell them. Like, what if someone was to come to you and say, Jules, I'm opening a workspace. You know, what sort of split would you recommend on how they, 16, 10 person offices and 2 co-working desks, or like what would you go for?"
yeah, good question. I think kind of what I said before, which is like you really need to know what you are. If anything, I think I'd be tempted to either do 100% co-working or 100% offices. And even within offices, we normally find when you get to 12, you want like one internal meeting room, etc. So I'd probably be able to dig out the stats of our requirements, etc., to do like actual configurations. But I think I'd really just try and pick a niche and not do like a mix, in all honesty. I do think there is like definitely a place for more co-working spaces where companies can get like a bank of desks, but you have like more of a community focused area. Because I think, as you were saying before, like if you were going to go to a workspace now, like people, you're on Zooms, you're on calls, you're doing podcasts. So I think there is, yeah, market for like a co-working space just with shared desks, but has like a ridiculous amount of meeting rooms, podcast studios, like places to jump off to do calls, but actually it's very community focused in the desk situation.
I think that comment about know what you are is the thing, because and it might just be the point people come and have these conversations, but people it feels sometimes those conversations they're looking for what is the recipe for everything. And I've always wanted it to be this way, but it seems the more specialized you are, if you have I'd open a co-working space for middle-aged men who like David Bowie. It would do really well because you'd be right in there, and you went from contingent works would turn up as well, and it would all fit. But then lots of people I know and are friends would never come to that building. But it's trying to fit. It's like classic business thing. We're like trying to be everything to everyone, and they're like, how many of these do I need, and how many of these do I need? And I think it's the more in tune you are with the person you're trying to get to or the area you're trying to get to.
Yeah, especially for workspaces, because like what they really need is they need longevity of like they need to like not have empty space in between. So I think really firm about who you're attracting, those people will stay forever, won't they? Your like churn will be really low. That's what you need.
I see co-working spaces nowadays, and they're like John at the Skiff, John and Anna at the Skiff, and Tom Ball and Indy Hall, and they're like, this person's been with us for 10 years.
Exactly.
Like that, like that's amazing that someone would be, to have a co-working customer that long is something else.
Yeah.
I don't suppose, Jules, you've got any awards coming up, because it's that time of year again, isn't it?
We do. We have the Tallys. So we do the Tallys every year, which is to celebrate workspaces. I think they're going to be announced. There's a People Choice one, which I think still needs voted on, but they're going to be announced in a couple of weeks for winners. So all workspaces, co-working, other office spaces, operators, and even people can nominate their own, like personal workspaces for their company as well.
And what, I mean, like, I kind of know why you do it, but like, why do you want to do that? Sort of go all Simon Sinek on you, but
it's something we start. I think this is our 4th year of doing the Tallys, and it's just a good way to promote the different workspaces and also like shine a light on ones that are not like from the big operators, because you hear about those ones all the time, and the ones that tend to win the Tallys are like, as we say, like very ones that are loved by communities. So like might be like Mission Works or like Lime Tree Workshops. those ones that have like real support. And it's like, it's so lovely to see that they're excited that they win an award, that their own people who are working there have like put the time and effort in to vote for them. So I feel like it's really nice for like the teams at the workspaces specifically to be able to like celebrate themselves, which they should.
And what's so we'll put a link in the show notes and everything, but like who are the people you want voting in here? Because like there's if everyone in I was going to say the name of a big company, but I can't because that'd be rude. But you know, if everyone in Mega Workspace got all their staff to vote, it would skew it. So what's the best way to overcome the evil gamification?
Yeah, we do have like questions within there, so it's not purely a numbers game at all. So yeah, but basically, if you love your workspace and you want to nominate them and like show them that you love them, then definitely vote in the Tallys.
And is when you say them? When you say you, is that like I'm a co-worker, I'm a member of a workspace, like the people in it?
Anyone can nominate, but really it's primarily for the people who are working at that workspace to nominate their workspace that they work at or they have visited.
And can you say where to go for that? Because all those people that are in their workspace gym listening to this who want to whip out their mobile and head to the website.
If you go to Tally Workspace, TALLY workspace.com, and then /the Tallys.
And where is the best place to like connect with you and follow your journey and all that malarkey? What's your favorite platform?
Definitely LinkedIn is the only platform I'm on. So I don't know how people manage loads of other ones. But yeah, I always love to connect on LinkedIn, like me as an individual, of course, and also Tally Workspace as well.
Brilliant. Really appreciate your time and attention today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you go to the show notes, there's everything Jules just read out for us in link form. There's also Sam Shea's LinkedIn campaign to get co-working in the drop-down menu, so we don't have to put consultancy or facilities management or hospitality or shipping or whatever you want to put in there. And that is, we'll put a link in it, but it's also on futureleadersofcoworking.com. And every month we do our Unreasonable Connection event, which is for co-working community builders. So if you own a co-working space or you work in a co-working space, it's an hour-long little get-together. You'll be put into small groups and chat away and then come back and say, my goodness, that was fun. No one has ever said they didn't have a good time at one of our events. I promise you. Okay, wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle. Say goodbye, Jules.
Bye.